Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. As I've mentioned before, the deposit return scheme is more or less dead in the water. Humza Yousaf has delayed it until March, which is effectively saying it's cancelled. Although nobody has told the Greens. In fact, nobody told the boss of the scheme that this was even being delayed. And now the Greens are coming out and saying, oh, they're introducing new measures so that it will be better and less intrusive. No, it won't be better and less intrusive. It actually won't be there. But here's the thing. Nobody is telling anyone anything. So we've got two related pieces. They're both short. I'm just going to whiz them together rather than doing a separate video for both. But it just goes to show the sheer chaos over this scheme, where Humza Yousaf realises the problems with it. I think somebody has finally told him that it is not only unworkable and unpopular, but it will actually lead to fraud on a vast scale, and it will force a lot of people who bottle, a lot of the plants, the bottling plants, to actually bottle them elsewhere because of the costs involved with doing it. And then, of course, in the meantime, the Greens have said, well, actually, yeah, we take on board that we desperately need something to show that we've done something while in government. So this is the hill we're going to die on. So we'll change the rules so that fewer and fewer people are affected by it, but we can still say, oh, we got this through. Well, if you're going to keep weakening it, why bother having it? So anyway, here we are. They're going to put this straight through for both of these. Like I say, two short ones together rather than one. But it does go to show the sheer chaos, again, between the SNP and the Greens, that nobody's telling anyone what they're doing. And nobody is telling the people supposed to run it what they're doing. Bonkers, isn't it? Anyway, here goes. So the first part of this is the deposit return scheme boss was not told of the delay before the Yousaf statement. Of course, this was Yousaf standing up in the Scottish Parliament and telling people that as it stands, the deposit return scheme is unworkable and it needs to be looked at. Wiser heads need to look at it and sort of formulate better details. Work on the details of this scheme, which is, like I say, it's the political speak for we're going to quietly drop it. But we don't want our partners in the Greens to know that that's our plan. And so whatever you do, don't tell the Greens it's being dropped, right? Shh, our little secret. So anyway, the organisation which will run the planned deposit return scheme was not, and he's getting paid, the boss of this is getting paid £300,000 a year to do this. This is a scheme that is going to cost a salary of one man alone, £300,000 a year on these bottles. And it won't generate that. It will actually make a loss for Scotland because of the fraud. This is how bad it is. Anyway, the organisation which will run the planned deposit return scheme was not informed in advance of the First Minister's decision to delay it. It has emerged. Donald McCalman, Programme Director for Circularity Scotland, said the delay came because not enough firms were ready to deliver the fantastic consumer experience. This fantastic consumer experience involves you going into a shop and paying an extra 20p for a product for which you're getting nothing extra. And in order to get that 20p back, you have to go back to the shop that you bought it from with your empty and hand it over. Think about this. They're paying you, you pay 20p in advance. You then bring the product back, the canister back, the bottle, tin, whatever it is, back. And you get your 20p back. So you've had to make an extra journey to the shop to get your money back. That shop then has to transport that tin back at cost to the shop. So it will probably put a couple of pence onto the cost of the tin to cover the cost of the shipping of that back. So all of a sudden you're talking 22p. Plus the actual chance, the time taken. Probably have to hire another staff or two staff members to deal with all the tins, especially the big supermarkets have to employ people to deal with this. So that's going to put the price up even more. So you got all that, then it transfers and it goes off to where it would have gone originally if you just put it in the bin. If you just recycle it properly in the first place. Meanwhile, there's so many people not going to be, forgetting to bring this 20p back, especially in the poorer areas, and so their outlay costs are much higher. So they're getting this big added cost to their products when they buy them. These are people at the bottom who can ill afford it now. So you're artificially increasing the price of these products up front, so people can't afford to buy them. You're harming the weakest and poorest in society with this policy. Meanwhile, people south of the border will come up to Scotland with their tins, with their bottles that they haven't paid the 20p for, walk into Tesco's or Sainsbury's or whatever, get their 20p back, but they won't be getting 20p back. They'll be coming up with hundreds of these things. They'll be making tens and £20 back, all at the expense of the Scottish taxpayer, because they're stupid. These people are stupid. The Greens are stupid. This deposit return scheme. It will fail, and we know it will fail before it starts because it's been brought in and attempted elsewhere. Many places have attempted this bottle deposit scheme, and you know where it's failed? It's failed in every place it's ever been tried. Every time. We used to have 10p on the big bottles, big glass bottles, and I remember getting as a kid, you go and get 10p back on the bottles. And then they stopped that. It was pretty little. You go, bring a bottle back, you get 10p back. And then they stopped it because it was an absolute failure. Nobody did it. It was costing companies money. Companies didn't want to do it because it was an expensive failure, and it always will be. But the Greens cannot look into history and see what happened every other time it's failed. They just go, we've got a bright idea. They got drunk one night and came up with this idea, like they do with all their policies. Anyway. This is basically how it's explained. The DRS will mean customers pay 20 pence deposit on drinks in cans and bottles, which will then be paid back when the containers are returned. No, they won't. Anyway, the Circularity Scotland is a not-for-profit company, but it's for profit for the people running it when you're on £300,000 a year of public money for a scheme that's going to cost millions to run and implement, and then will continue to lose millions through fraud every year. It is madness. Anyway, I'm not going to go too deep in there, but I am going to just flick across into the Lorna Slater bit of this. Now, of course, well, obviously that Calman. I mean, the fact that the Scottish government thought, we've got this guy that's running the scheme, we're not going to tell him anything, goes to show how little they think of him. And actually, that just sort of heightens the thing that actually this isn't going to go ahead. We don't need to tell him because it isn't going to happen. But of course, she's sitting there. Look at the little smug smile on her face. She's sitting there not realising that the bottle deposit scheme isn't going to happen. She has no idea. Poor deluded fool. Anyway, major changes have been announced by the Scottish Government, they mean the Greens in this case, to the controversial deposit return scheme. Ministers believe the new measures that they're trying to introduce will see almost half of businesses, 44%, including many in the craft beers sector, exempt. If half the people in this scheme are exempt, what is the point of the scheme? Seriously? Under the initiative, a 20p deposit will be added to the price of drinks, blah, blah, blah. We've covered that. It was described by a former Scottish Government minister this week as a green poll tax, which would hit struggling households amid the cost of living crisis, which I've just explained. Because it's the ones at the bottom that will have to find, relatively as a percentage of their income, more to pay this 20p than the wealthier ones. The changes were unveiled by a circular economy minister, Lorna Slater, in Holyrood today. They actually created a post called Circular Economy Minister. It's a non-job for a Green because, she needs to feel important and she needs to feel like she's contributing to society. Ashley Love, going away, out of Parliament, go get yourself a nice little job, work in a shop, something like that, something better suited to your skills. That would be better for the country, wouldn't it? Anyway, she's brought these. She's announced these new rules, which for this scheme, which is now set to get underway in March next year, but it won't. Businesses, opposition parties, and some SNP MSPs, so even within their own parties, were among the groups who had previously raised substantial concerns. Former Finance Secretary Kate Forbes, who was narrowly defeated in the SNP leadership in the contest, said it would cause economic carnage. And this afternoon, Ms Slater said the craft drinks producers and pubs that provide off sales will be among those that will benefit from the rethink. So you get to a pub that does off sales, you buy what you're buying, you walk away, you drink, so you've bought it, you haven't paid your 20p, you drink, you walk into Sainsbury's and you put it in and you go, I have me 20p back. Madness. It's madness. It's just so rife from fraud. These people are morons. And it's never, ever worked. But the things, apparently, what they're saying, that you're exempt if the drinks containers are under 100 ml, if the product sales are fewer than 5,000 units per year, all hospitality premises that sell large majority of the drinks products for consumption on the premises will be exempt from acting as a return point, and the online application process for retailers to add for an exemption from providing a return point has been simplified. I would suggest that every retailer in Scotland gets online and gets themselves exempt and basically have no return points. And once you've got no return points, the scheme is dead anyway. But it is going to be effectively dropped because it is madness. Madness. I don't think they say, oh, it's going to be saving the... This doesn't save the environment. This does nothing from the environment, but it will destroy jobs. Unlike the Greens policy on oil. That's actually what they're after. They want jobs destroyed so people aren't going out and consuming and doing. Because when people are just sitting at home, watching a bit of telly, not consuming, oh, that's saving the environment. Is it bugger? Oh, these people are so stupid. They're beyond stupid. They're actually dangerous. Anyway, I can't go on anymore because I can just see it's just winding me up with their dimness and the stupidity. But I just love the expression on her face. Look at that supercilious, smug cow sitting there thinking she is better than everyone else, and her tofu-eating farts don't stink. Love, you are a moron. You do stink, and you're going to be very upset when you're no longer in government, which hopefully will be sooner rather than later. I shall come up. To be fair, we have low expectations of anything that comes out of the Greens, but tied to the natural sort of criminality and secrecy of the SNP, it does make a formidable force for evil. Can you imagine a country so riven by its own stupidity that government cannot do anything sensible, cannot do anything that's good for the people, and in order to remain in power must actively harm the economy, actively harm the benefits of its own people, make them lose their jobs, push them further into poverty and misery, simply to hang on to power. If the SNP, and in particular Humza Yousaf, had any spine, they would just abandon these policies and tell the Greens to go boil their heed. But we're talking about Humza Yousaf here. Spine? Nah, he hasn't got one. He'll never have one. And soon he'll be gone. And that's the only saving grace, is that he will soon be gone. The SNP will soon be out of power. And the Greens, hopefully, will just be a very distant and bitter memory. And their policies will die with them. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. If you like what you're seeing here on the channel, please do hit the subscribe button. It's right there and it's so easy to hit. Go do. And then ring the bell. Also, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video, but especially leave a like. It really does help with the metrics. That's all I ask if you have got to this point of the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, never trust a Green because they are stupid, and goodbye.